joining us shortly. Great. That's good. I know. I want to.
Cool. Hi, I'm Justin.
Hi, Amanda.
Nice to meet you. How old's your little one?
She's 3.
Three? Three's fun. Is it your first or second?
Second.
Second? Nice.
Yeah.
How's your older one?
He is 7.
7.
So, yeah.
7 and 3. That's a good combo.
Yeah. Yours different?
Yeah. You said boy, girl, right?
Boy first, girl
Nice.
second.
Okay. Fun stuff. Three's fun. Three's fun because like you really get a sense of their personality by 3.
Yes.
You're like, this is who she is. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, I have a 5-year-old daughter. Yeah,
Nice.
and yeah, she is. You pray for like a strong, self-assured
Yes.
girl, and then God gives you one.
And then you're like,
Yeah, but then they practice on you. So
exactly.
yeah. No, that's awesome. Good to meet you. Yeah. Sure.
You're okay to walk up there too. Is there better lighting here? God brought him our way how many years ago?
10. Yeah,
Maybe
10.
10
Yeah,
years
10 years
ago.
ago. Yeah.
We had some challenges at the school. I was a new director at that time. We needed somebody with experience in directing a preschool, coaching teachers, and everything. And on our board advisory, we had a lady, her name is Miss Graciela. She said, I have the one for you. She brought Justin. He came on. He helped me. He helped the school. He stayed on as a program coordinator until he was ready to go and do his own consulting. So I know the work he's done. I know how he's trained our teachers, that positive guidance. And so that's why I am so sure that you will definitely be blessed by tonight's presentation. And being a dad himself, a brother in the Lord, he knows the principles that God has placed that work. These are not just new psychology, but these are tried and true things. And so him and his wife, they have 2 children. He's going to tell you all about him. You're going to hear examples about him. He's good about that. And so let me just open us in prayer. Heavenly Father, we welcome you into this place. You are the ultimate teacher. Teach us, guide us in how we can guide and teach our children in our care, Father. Thank you for imparting unto Justin this wisdom, this ability that he will share with us, sharpening us as teachers, as parents. Father, be present here and help us retain as much as we can and leave here knowing that we've received and value has been added to us. I ask all of these in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Jacqueline, for having me, and the church and school board. I'm so blessed that I've been able to be connected to Brightstar for so many years. As Jacqueline said, I've been connected to Brightstar for 10 years now in different capacities, and I'm super passionate about working with you, parents. I do teacher consulting, I do director coaching, I work with children directly who have really high risk, really big behaviors. But parents, you guys are my jam right here. So I'd like to hear first from you. Raise your hand if you have under one. You have any little ones? I see a couple little ones here, under one, nice. What about 1-year-olds? 1-year-olds? 2-year-olds? 2-year-olds? 3-year-olds? Nice, our threes, nice. 4-year-olds? Nice. 5-year-olds, 5-year-olds. No 5-year-olds, okay, maybe online. Good stuff. I myself, we have an 11-year-old, Calvin, and we have our daughter, Olive. She's 5, and she is a 5-year-old. I was just saying, sometimes you pray for a strong, self-determined, confident girl, and then God gives you one. And she learns how to practice on you. And so that's what I'm dealing with. So I'm right there in there with you guys. But it's my favorite job. Out of all the jobs that I wear, being a dad is my favorite job, and working with parents is my favorite. Let's see, are we able to skip forward? What's that? Oh, okay, this way? Not so much. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. That's me and my wife. My wife teaches child development over at San Jose State, and we met teaching preschool together when I was 19, 20 years old. We were really young when we met, and then we moved on to working with teachers and being directors of schools, and now she teaches child development over at San Jose State. I'm a consultant, and I work with a number of schools across the Bay Area, and I'm so blessed again to work with you guys. And so write down or think in your mind, what are some of your child's strengths? I always want to start these talks thinking positively. We go in thinking about all my list of challenges that I experience as a parent, and we want to address them and learn about them. But let's start off strength-based. What are some of the wonderful and positive things about your kids? What are your kids into? Who are they? What are some of their strengths? Just call it out. What's that? Call it out. Tell me something good about your kids. Come on. She knows what she wants. Absolutely. The power of her voice. I love it. What else? Independence, wonderful, challenging. I love it. What else? Oh, yeah, she likes, what age? What age is your child? 3, yeah, 3. They want to start helping out. They start mimicking you, right? Absolutely. What else? Sense of humor, right? This age, you get to figure out who they are, what kind of things make them laugh. I've traveled all across the globe teaching parents and teaching teachers, and the one thing that works with every single child is a good fart joke. You make a good fart joke, that kills in the Philippines, in Africa, in Zimbabwe, and all Mexico, all over the world. That kills. You can figure out who they are, their personality, what kind of things make them laugh, right? What are your kids into? What are they doing right now? Cars, yeah, cars, wheels, right? Back, forth, cause and effect. What else? What else? Scootering, biking, those big body movements, right? Nice, absolutely, right? Right? And so as we talk, I want you to think about those things, right? We have these challenges that are really, really, they're real challenges. One thing that I've learned from working with kids, but also being a dad, is that parents always talk about, the terrible twos, or the 3-nager, or, all these other things. It's all a challenge. It's all a challenge. And it's all a blessing at the exact same time. You trade old blessings for new blessings. You trade old challenges for new challenges. But it's ongoing, and it doesn't stop, right? This is Calvin and Olive, right? Really sweet picture. It got a whole bunch of likes when I posted it on Instagram, right? As you can imagine, they're so cute, right? Calvin was younger then, and Olive was younger then, right? Wonderful picture. But the reality behind this picture is that this day was a mess. We got to the top of the hike, and we got our picture. Calvin got upset because he couldn't fit in my hiking backpack, and he wanted to, he's probably 8 here. Olive, she was upset because she finished her fruit first, and she was mad because she thought that she got less because she ate it faster. And so she had a meltdown. So even though this picture looks amazing, they cried their whole way back down the hill, finally got to the car, everyone's happy, we made it home. But I say all that to say that I am right there in it with you guys, right? Things may look nice on the surface. They're on their best behavior when they go with their teacher, right? Miss Carol or Miss Christian, right? They're so happy to have them, and your kid was so great today. And then they get in the car, and it's a meltdown, right? It's because they love you, That's because they know that your love is unconditional. They know that you're not going anywhere, so they save it all for you. Lucky you, right? I'm right there in there with you, you guys, all right? So today we're going to talk about what behavior is, right? I want to kind of flesh out some of the things that we think about behavior, what it is, what it isn't. FBA, functional behavioral analysis. It sounds like a lot, it's really not, right? And I'm going to teach you a little bit about how to interpret behavior. Oftentimes as parents, we can kind of feel like firefighters, and it's just going from one fire to the next fire to the next fire. But as parents, the reality is that we want to be ahead of things. And so a way to be ahead of it is having some tools to interpret behavior. What is the child trying to say behind their behavior? I'm going to talk about tools and the impact of a good routine is on your child's behavior. And then we're going to talk about play, right? And kind of what's normal when it comes to your child's behavior. So what is behavior? Right off the bat, oftentimes we have how we want to respond and how we should respond, right? Everything about who we are, how we were raised, right? Our upbringing, our parents' styles, the teachers we've had in the past, what's worked with our friends' kids, all of that, what we've seen on TV, the 1,000 different parenting blogs that you've probably read and YouTube videos you've watched, right? Books you've read, all of that stuff informs how we should react, right? And then there's how we want to react, right? Oh, stop it, I'm taking it away, right? Get in the car, right? All of that is perfectly normal. And we oftentimes feel in this struggle, right? Where it's like, oh, I know I shouldn't raise my voice, but that's what my gut wants to do. My gut wants to raise my voice, but you want to act out. And so as parents, we're kind of stuck in this kind of limbo here. Well, my goal is to give you some tools to be able to make that decision-making process a little smoother when we are encountering challenging behaviors, right? Bribes, timeout, humiliation, as opposed to incentives, taking space, giving feedback, right? All of these things can look the same on its face, but they're very different. What's the difference between a bribe and an incentive? A bribe is something on the fly. Here, take my wallet. Just stop crying, right? That's a bribe. It's make it stop, right? Here, take my phone, right? We're all guilty of that. Take my phone. Let's just get through the store and let's get out the door, right? A timeout versus taking space, right? A timeout is go. I can't talk to you. Go. Get out of here. Go. Sit down. Sit on the chair. Go to your bed. Go to your room, right? Taking space is, I hear that you're really upset right now. I'm really upset right now. I think we should take some space, and we're going to talk about it again later, right? Or the way that you're screaming, throwing yourself down on the ground, we're not having a conversation right now, and I can understand you, and I want to understand you, but I can't understand you right now, so I'm going to give you space to calm down, right? Similarly to bribes and incentives, an incentive is a plan. It's intention, right? If you do this, and you show me that you can handle this, then you'll get this. It's an incentive. You're working towards it as opposed to a bribe. Humiliation versus giving feedback, right? Yelling across, across a room with your relatives and everything else and snapping at your child, that's shame, right? We don't want our child to feel shame, but giving feedback, right? What do you think that felt like when you hit your sister, right? Let's talk about that, right? Look at your friend's face. Does your friend look happy? Does daddy's face look happy when you hit him or when you ran away from me in the store, right? That's different. That's giving feedback. Same intention, you're addressing the behavior directly, but one is with intention and one is impulsive. Right? The reasons a child has behavior, right? It's what people think, right? They're just misbehaving, they're not listening, right? And what it really is. All these other things, seeking connection, right? They're tired, they're hungry, they're trying to communicate, difficulty understanding interactions, unmet needs, sensory overload. It's just too much. There's so much more going on. It's so much easier to just say good behavior, bad behavior, right? But we don't live in a black and white world. And you think about our own emotions. They're complex. There's a lot going on, right? It can't just be, I didn't have my coffee, and so now I get to yell at everyone all day, right? It doesn't work that way. There's a lot more going on. There's the behavior, there's the function, and then there's the unmet need. The behavior is oftentimes where we spend most of our time addressing, right? Good behavior, bad behavior, what are we seeing, what are they doing, right? And my goal is that by the end of this talk, if there's one thing you take away from this time, is that there's more beneath the surface. I want to teach you how to dig beneath the surface, beneath the bad behavior, beneath the biting or screaming or yelling or tantrum, and dig beneath it and look at more so, what is the function, right? What's going on for a child? And then deeper than that, what's the unmet need, right? What is the thing that's lacking? Functional behavioral analysis. To sum that up, it's communication. That's what behavior is. It's communication. What is my child trying to say with their behavior, right? And we see this in our adult life too, so there wouldn't be any different, right? If your friend is being a little bit distant, right? Maybe they're upset, maybe you had some sort of an argument or something like that, right? They may show that to you by just not hanging out after a while or having some distance or something like that, or you might even, I'm gonna, that person wasn't very kind to me. I'm gonna keep them at arm's length, right? Right? There's a reason behind it. There's things going on beneath the surface. It's communication. What am I communicating with what I'm doing, right? So what are some of the challenging behaviors you encounter with your child, right? This is an open space, right? I'll open first, right? My child right now, my daughter, she's in this interesting phase where she presents as being unfazed by consequence. So I'll say, if you don't do this, then you won't be able to watch TV this afternoon. If you choose this, if you make this choice, you won't be able to watch TV. If you make this choice, you can watch TV, right? Make a good choice. And she'll say, so? What? But I know that she does care. And I know that when it comes down to it, she's going to do the thing that I'm asking her to do because then she gets to watch TV. And if she doesn't, that's okay too. There's a natural consequence. But I'm promoting autonomy. I'm letting her make her own choice and also own her consequences. So now we're not in conflict, right? It's not I'm the bad cop and I'm just the fun killer. No. Let's make a good choice, babe. Make a good choice, right? But what she's presenting is, so. Oh my goodness. It's driving me nuts right now. Right. What are some of yours? What are some of the behaviors you're dealing with? Anyone? Somebody call it out. I'm sorry? Yeah, just avoiding bedtime, absolutely. Just choosing to dig your heels in at bedtime. Funny thing about bedtime and eating time, those are two of the main times, going to school as well. Those are times where really you can't compromise, right? You gotta go to bed. You gotta eat food. You gotta go to school. And so children start to pick up on patterns and they realize, I can dig my heels in a little bit. I can flex some of my power, see how they react. We'll talk about that, definitely. What are some of the other behaviors? Somebody said something over here. Yeah. Just shuts down, right? Complete shutdown, right? Not talking to you, right? Absolutely, right? And what does that get you to do, right? Part of you wants to be like, oh, okay, like let me coax words out of you and let me draw that out of you. Where's my little one who was just, talking my ear off a second ago, right? Right? That's what our nature wants to do. She knows. She knows. We'll talk about that too. Somebody else. What are some of the behaviors, you guys? This side. Explain. What does that look like? Yeah. Totally. Wanting to do things their way, right? My way. And when it doesn't go their way, it's frustrating, right? They see you have power, right? When daddy does things a certain way, it just works out. As far as they're concerned, you're perfect. You do the thing and then it works out and you balance it perfectly right on its head, right? They don't have those skills yet, right? And so they want to experiment with that power. Totally normal. And oftentimes what it looks like is a meltdown. Absolutely. Yeah. Let's get another one. Where else? Yeah. Sure, good cop, bad cop. Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly. See, yeah. Well, and that's you bring up an interesting point, sir. Is that there is a truth in that, right? All of these challenges are also skills. Like there are skills embedded in all of these things, and really, what are they doing? They're experimenting with power. That's all it is, right? It works when I see mommy say no. What if I say no? Right? Daddy gets to stay up late. I want to stay up late, right? I notice that mommy doesn't put peas on her plate. I'm not going to put peas on my plate, right? They're experimenting with power. I got in an argument with my daughter a few weeks ago because she wanted my keys. She thought she could drive the car because sometimes, we'll sit in a parking lot while my wife runs an errand. She'll sit on my lap and pretends, and she didn't want to give them back. I was like, well, I guess you're showing me that you can't use my keys. Like, we can't play that game anymore until you show that you can handle it, right? That's your choice. Or you can choose that you can handle it, and then we can play that game, right? But they're experimenting with power. They see you do things, and so they're trying to do it as well, right? This is me teaching preschool at, I think I was 19, 20 at the time, right? I just learned it. We were doing an Easter thing, so we made ears for Easter. I know I haven't aged at all, right, guys? Not a single bit, have I? Just kidding. But funny thing is that, so I was teaching, and it was my first circle time, and I remember I had worked so hard to be a really good teacher, right? I took the classes, and I was an aide for a long time, and then, I was a teacher, and I had my first class, and I was like, my circle time's gonna go so well, and I'm gonna do my activities, and, I've got this child, right? And it's same typical first day of school, right? She's crying her eyes out. Her name was Irene. I'll never forget it. And she's crying, and she's having a hard time, and she's getting upset, but we're trying to get through the day, right? Because I know that if I send her home halfway through the day, she's gonna think she can go home every day. And it's the first day of school for her. And I'm like, oh, she's gonna feel the wind of getting through the day, right? And she's there, and she's struggling, and she's saying this phrase over and over. She's saying this phrase over and over and over, and I'm trying to figure out what she was. And her family's Korean, and she's saying this phrase over and over. I didn't know what the phrase meant, but I'm trying to figure it out. And one of our aides said, oh, that means she wants mommy. And I was like, okay, all right, we'll just keep trying to work with her, and we just gotta get through the day, right? And I had this fruit salad activity where the kids are crushing up fruit and they're eating fruit, and I was like, yes, we got through that activity, and we're getting through. And it's 12:30. She was a half day, and mom, starts to show up, and I'm doing my closing circle time, and I see Irene still crying, all morning crying, and she starts doing this. And my instinct, right, I'm like, this is my first day teaching, it's been so good, and I do this. And I catch all of her vomit right in my hands. I go to the trash. I wash my hands. Disgusting. I tell the mom, I really wanted her to make it through the day. There was this phrase she was saying over and over and over. And I said, the aide told me she missed you. And, they all miss their moms. They all miss their dads. They're trying to get through the day. Tell the mom. And she goes, yeah, no, she says she's feeling sick. Like, that's what the phrase meant. She was trying to tell you that she was sick. I felt so bad. I felt horrible because I was like, this poor thing was just trying to get through this day, bunch of strangers she's never met before in a new place, right? I was so focused on just trying to get through the day, and I just assume, right, it's first day, they're all crying or having some kind of an emotion, and so maybe it's just that. Turns out her stomach was ill. The takeaway from that for me was, again, always dig deeper. Right? What is going on beneath the surface? Right? And also, don't take advice from your aide who doesn't actually speak Korean. But, you figure it out, right? Check your sources, is what I'm trying to say, right? And so I learned a valuable lesson is that you always need to be able to dig underneath the surface, right? Seek out from help from other people, talk to the child, get on their level, do what you need to do to figure out what's beneath the surface, what's going on, right? And so there's this anagram, everybody eats, right? When you start seeing a negative behavior, it's either trying to escape something, it's trying to attain something, right? It's attention, it's something tangible or something sensory, right? All of these things tend to summarize most people's function behind their challenging behaviors. Even with your friends as adults, coworkers, your boss even, right? When you start seeing challenging behaviors, what is it? Are they trying to escape, right? They don't want to go to grandma's house. Grandma has a big dog, and that dog is scary. But they just don't know how to say that it's the dog. They just know that grandma's place is a scary place, right? But they can't put their finger on why, right? You take offense to that. You're saying, why? It's grandma. Stop behaving that way at grandma's house, right? Well, it's the scary dog, but they just can't say that, right? They want attention, right? Every single child wants attention. They don't care if it's positive attention or negative attention, right? They know that if I do this, that's when mommy puts down her phone. When I do this, this is when daddy closes the iPad, right? They don't care if it's negative attention or positive attention. If negative attention is going to be the thing that makes you go down on their level and look at them eye to the eye and speak very sternly and very closely, right? That's intimacy. Good or bad, it's closeness, right? And so we want to look for how are they trying to get attention? What do they get out of that behavior? Something tangible, right? We all, every single one of you, have something in your Amazon cart that you're just waiting to pull the trigger on, right? We all do. There's nothing wrong with wanting a thing. There's nothing wrong with wanting that toy or wanting your dad's keys or whatever the thing is. How they show that they want that, that's the issue, right? If they show that they want that by having a tantrum and refusing to give it back and running away and stealing it from their brother, right? We don't want to reward those behaviors. But is there anything wrong with wanting that toy? Absolutely not. We all have things that we want. There's nothing wrong with that. But how we go about showing that, how they go about showing that is what matters. And then sensory needs, right? Sometimes it's too bright. Sometimes it's too loud, right? Sometimes there's too much going on. Sometimes they're overtired. Sometimes they're really hungry. Sometimes it's just too much going on and there's been too many transitions that are out of their normal routine, right? That's a sensory overload. And so they act out because they don't know how to put words to that, right? You ever walk in a room and it's just the vibe is off, right? Same thing. Our kids feel that all the time as well. And so again, there's nothing wrong with having these needs, right? Everybody eats, but the way that they show that is what matters, and that's the behavior that we want to address, right? So staying focused on the function. As you try to decide and try to figure out what's actually causing the behavior, it's important to make sure that whatever your response is matches what the behavior is. So if they want to escape, a common phrase you can use is first this, then that. First, we're going to clean up, then we're going to go to the park. I want to go to the park now. Get me out of this house. I have cabin fever, right? Sure. First this, then that. First clean, then we go outside. And when you say that, what you're doing is you're aligning with that child. Buddy, I want to go outside too. I've got cabin fever too. I am with you. I am not the fun killer. I'm not the barrier between us and getting outside. I'll help you clean even. But we're going to first clean, then we can go outside. You're addressing the escape, right? Attention. Praise the behavior you want to see. It's the most powerful tool that you will have in your tool belt. Give attention to what you want to see more of, and I promise you, you will see more of that behavior, good or bad. Whatever you give attention to, that's what you're going to see more of. So, even if it seems ridiculous, even if you seem like praising this one behavior is going to be a thing that every single other child does, and you see all your friends do, everyone else's child doesn't have a problem brushing teeth, why do you have a problem brushing teeth? And you feel almost like you want to withhold that praise, because they're just doing what they should be doing anyway. Be generous with that praise. Hey, I know that it was hard for you to brush your teeth. You haven't been wanting to brush your teeth, but you did it. Thank you, pal. Thank you. I thought it was really hard. Thank you, right? Wow, I'm going to do it more. I'm going to do it more and more and more. Sensory needs, right? Coach coping strategies, right? Yeah, I know, buddy. I know it's really, really hot right now. If you help me get out of here, then we can get to the car and turn on the air conditioner, right? I know it's really hot. I'm feeling it too, pal. I'm right there with you, right? Or I know little brother is screaming his head off right now, and it's kind of a lot, okay? So let's finish eating, and then we can go for a walk and just kind of calm down, because I know it's really a lot hearing brother scream, because he's really little and he's having some hard times, right? There's nothing wrong with having sensory needs. Again, how they go about getting those needs met is what matters. So again, when you think about everybody eats, right, you think about all these very common things that we see all the time. I want you to start thinking about your child's behaviors through this lens, right? So some of these behaviors that you're mentioning, right? If it's, wanting to do something exactly like dad and balance, toys and balance things exactly the way that they did, and they feel that frustration, right? Well, maybe it's something tangible. Like they tangibly want to be able to do that thing. They want that thing to go exactly the way that they want to, right? And so it's just frustrating for them. You can align with that feeling without aligning with the tantrum. Right? You can align with that feeling of, if I go to dad, he's going to say yes, or if I go to mom, she'll say no, or vice versa, right? You can align with that desire, right? I see that you're trying to negotiate. Guess what? We are in lockstep. The answer is no, right? There's nothing wrong, again, wanting that attention and saying, maybe if I get a different kind of attention from dad or a different kind of attention from mom, what's going to happen? They're experimenting with power. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But we're going to reward what we want to see more of. Does that make sense? Yeah? Let's watch this here.
Me play! Okay. No!
Caillou couldn't believe his eyes. Rosie was wearing his very favorite shirt.
Mommy!
What is it, Caillou?
Rosie is wearing my teddy shirt.
It's much too small for you, so I gave it to Rosie to wear.
It's not too small for me. It's mine.
I promise I will
I
make you watch the
need
whole
this
episode.
shirt, Rosie.
It's just another minute.
Teddy shirt?
I'll get you your nice mousy shirt, Rosie, okay?
See? It still fits me. It's perfect.
Okay.
So, if you had to hypothesize, what was Caillou's function of his behavior? Right? That little tantrum that he threw, right? What was his goal behind it? If you thought about those, everybody eats the Enneagram, what do you think his function behind his behavior was? Take a guess, or a thought, hypothesis. Yeah. Power, yeah. Some control, maybe, yeah. What else? Some jealousy, yeah, definitely. Probably some jealousy, right? That's at least how it presented, right? Right? Something tangible, right? Everybody eats, right? Think about that Enneagram, right? Something tangible, right? So he wants the thing, he wants the shirt, right? Now, think about what behavior was rewarded, right? He threw the tantrum, and how did mom react? She gave him the shirt, right? So what's the message that we're communicating? If we think about behavior as communication, our behavior in response is also communication, right? And what mom communicated to Caillou was that, tantrum is how you get things you want, right? There's nothing wrong with him wanting the shirt. He's a brat, but just, between you and me. But the way that he went about doing it was not okay. And mom rewarded that. And so the message he received was that is how I get my needs met, right? You literally take it right off the sister. And so we need to be mindful of also our behaviors, how we're reacting to the behavior and what we're communicating. It's all communication back and forth. I used to work in social services for a long time, working with really high-risk families. And I would do this activity where you'd go through a scenario, go through a common argument that you have. And I do a lot of individual coaching with families as well. And they're like, every Sunday night, it's a meltdown. Every Sunday night, it's so hard. The bedtime routine before we start our week, it's the worst, right? And so what I'll do is I'll go through the scenario. And it's, mom said this, child did that. Dad did this in response, child did this in response. Mom did this in response, dad did this in response. And it can literally circle for you who has the power in each exchange, right? Parents took some of the power, they had it for a little bit. But then they did this thing, and it actually gave the power back to the child. Child melted down. Parents dug their heels in, got a little bit of the power back, but then they lost their temper, and it went right back to the child, right? You can literally see the power shifting between the parents and the child. And what I want to coach you in is you can retain your power, and you can maintain control of the situation, and you can even align with your child without giving that power over to negative behaviors that we don't want to see more of. It's all conditioning. And so this looks complex, but it's really not. I teach this to parents and to teachers, right? So you've got a behavior, right? You observe the behavior right in the top corner there. You observe what it looks like, right? What happened before it? What happened during? What happened after? Before, Caillou was playing with the cars, everything was fine. During, he melted down because he saw his sister with the shirt on. What happened afterwards? He got the shirt back, right? That was the exchange that took place. So you create a hypothesis. My hypothesis is that it was attention, right? Or it's something tangible. He wanted the shirt, he wanted the thing, right? You create a plan. You utilize the child's strengths and interests, right? So it's, I see that your sister has it right now, right? I apologize, it is your shirt, but your sister's wearing it right now, and I'm not gonna take it off her. So let's go find your Cars shirt from grandma that you love so much, or let's find this other shirt. Or you can be upset about it, and you're allowed to be upset about it, but you need to still be patient, right? I know that you can be patient because you showed me patience yesterday when we were at the restaurant and we were waiting for our food. You kept it together, buddy, so I know you can be patient. I need to see some of that patience, right? And so you appeal to their strengths, or you appeal to their interests, and you create a plan around that hypothesis. You observe, and you see if that changes the behavior. It may not, right? But you're addressing the function behind it, and you're seeing if that changes things. Then you amend the plan. Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't work, right? So if it did work, then okay, if I appeal to his patience, or if I distract him and redirect him to something else that's his interest, that's a strategy that works. And now you put that in your back pocket, and you share that with your partner, right? Now you both have that tool with your child in that stage that they're in. Or it doesn't work, and he melts down again because he really wants that thing, right? You've learned something new. Maybe I need to amend my hypothesis. Maybe it's a different function. Maybe he just wanted attention, or maybe it was something sensory, and it has nothing to do with the shirt, but he just missed his nap, right? It looks really complex, but I know that you guys do this all the time. Your child has a behavior, you try to figure out what it is, you try to address it, see if the behavior changes, then you have a new tool, and then you see if it works next time. You do it all the time, split of a second. Trying to get in the store, trying to get out of the store, trying to get out the door, trying to get back, right? Not eating dinner, right? Sitting there staring at the food, refusing to eat. Whatever it is, you guys do this all the time. But now what I'd like you to do is internalize looking just below the surface. Tools and routine. Ask yourself before you respond to behavior, am I emotionally responding, right? Children thrive on consistency. You are their secure base. You decide what's normal. You create the sense of normal for them and what's predictable, what's consistent, how we respond to things, how things are. And so if you're all over the place in how you react, yesterday was perfectly fine. Today it's not fine, right? That creates inconsistency, and it can also result in a lack of security, a lack of confidence in you and the environment that you're creating for them. I know it's a lot of weight. I'm in there with you. We're literally creating their world. My son's 11 right now, and I remember when he was 9, which isn't that long ago, right? But 9, it's an older child, right? 4th grader. And I remember we have this routine that we do every single night where before we go to bed, we read books, we pray, and then I'll say, where do you want to meet up in your dreams? And then he'll say, me, my wife, and our son and daughter, we'll all decide, we'll take turns and be like, let's go back to the snow. That was really fun, we went to the snow. Okay, when we go to bed tonight, we'll meet each other in our dreams. Right? It's just this thing that we've done since forever, right? I remember I was chaperoning a field trip for my son, 9 at the time. And, I'm just driving, and we're going to the pumpkin patch, and they're in the car, and him and his buddies are in the car, and we're going to meet all the other classmates at the pumpkin patch, and we're in there, and I'm hearing them talk, and I'm fascinated just listening to them. And I'm hearing my son go to his buddy, hey, where'd you meet up with your folks last night? And that's when it hit me, wow, I am literally creating his reality. I'm creating what he knows is normal. Right? I think about, you guys have seen the movie E.T. Remember the scene where he's home alone and he's just kind of banging into stuff, right? That's our kids. They have no sense of anything except for what we create for them and their teachers, right? Their world is so small. And so really the phrase, you should know better, should not exist with kids that are 5 and under because they're so new. They are Martians. They don't know normal. And so it's important just to be sensitive to that and remember that, right? Am I responding emotionally, right? Is the environment contributing to the behavior, right? If I know that my child needs their nap, or else it's going to be a really, really, really tough afternoon, right? And I make a choice, and I say, you know what? It's really important to me. I need to get this birthday present for my sister whose birthday is tomorrow. We got to go to the store. This is the only window we have. I'm making a choice to forego that nap, right? That's a decision that I've made. That's a trade-off that I've made. I can't be surprised when the behaviors come afterwards. Right? It's a grace that we extend to our kids. Grace that they don't deserve, but we do it because we love them and we know that we're creating their normal, right? How is my environment that I'm creating contributing to that? Again, if I'm inconsistent, they're gonna feel inconsistent. If I'm breaking the rules, right? Last time we went to grandma's house, you stopped for ice cream. We're not stopping for ice cream this time. What are you doing? You liar, right? They're trying to figure out what's normal, what's the rules of the road. And so is the environment that I'm creating contributing to the behaviors? Are my requests inconsistent, right? Sometimes before we leave the house, we have to clean our room. Sometimes we don't have to clean our room before we leave the house, right? Why do I have to do it today? It doesn't make any sense. I'm frustrated now. I've got big emotions now. Again, none of us are perfect, but we do our best to be as consistent as possible. Consistency breeds security. And if they feel secure, that's when they can play and learn and explore and discover, right? But they need that sense of security, and that comes from consistency. Are my expectations developmentally appropriate? Right? Again, we need to remind ourselves that they are brand new, right? And so sometimes maybe the language that we use may be a little too elevated, especially if we have older and younger siblings, right? We're constantly doing that shift between like, oh, he understands this, but she understands that. He speaks, these are the verbiage that I use with him, and this is the verbiage I use with her. It can get exhausting, right? When we're depleted and we're having to make those shifts, it can be really, really challenging, right? Another one, especially if you have siblings, is your sister was able to do this when she was your age. My brother was able to do this when they were your age. They're different kids. I know it's our nature to want to compare, right? You draw on your experiences to inform the future, but the reality is that they are different kids. They are their own people, and we need to be sensitive to that as well, right? This is a lot, right? But again, I want to be able to change your mindset into the lens of proactive strategies and reactive strategies. So on one side, we have proactive strategies, things we do in advance in order to help our children cope through challenging times, right? And then reactive strategies. If we do have these challenges behaviors, how do I react to them? What are some proactive strategies that you do with your kids to help make it so then they don't have a meltdown? Previewing. I love it. Previewing aligns you with the child, right? Hey, buddy, this is what we're doing today. It's different than a normal day. We're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Okay, cool, awesome. Great, I love that. Previewing, fantastic. What are some other things you guys do with your kids? Yeah, something proactive. Love it. Awesome. That's not just for you. That's for your husband, too. Don't lie. It's not just for the kids. It's for your husband, too. Yeah. Absolutely. Having snacks, right? Absolutely. Hangry is a real thing. Absolutely, right? Having snacks, brilliant. Fantastic. What else? Perfect. Yeah. Are you going to wear the red shirt or the blue shirt? Either way, we're leaving this house with a shirt. Either way. I do not care. Pick a shirt, right? Absolutely. Let me get one more strategy. What else? Anyone? Something proactive that you do. Yeah, that's right, bud. Let's see. Anybody else? Let's see. Anybody else? Let's go with, well, I see provide options, absolutely. Consider incentives, right? Right? Incentives. If you do this, then that, right? If you show me. I remember with our daughter, and with our son for that matter, right around age 2, we started letting him use a plastic knife at the dinner table, right? And it's like, it's a tool, right? And they should learn how to use it appropriately. The second they show that they can't use it appropriately, it gets taken away, right? It's a natural consequence. But prior to them using it, I preview for them. I tell them the expectations. I give them the guardrails. If you use it as a weapon, it's gone, right? If you use it unsafely, like on your own skin or something like that, it's gone. Now show me that you can do it. And if you can't, that's okay. We'll try again another day, right? But things like previewing, things like considering incentives, right? An incentive is you get to keep using it, right? That's the incentive, right? Those kind of things help to mitigate a lot of these challenging behaviors. Now, when your children do have really challenging behaviors, and there is a meltdown, there is screaming or biting or throwing things or running away or not talking, right? What are some ways that you guys have found to react to them that is successful? This might be a harder list to come up with, but again, the particular stage that your child's in, what's something that works? What's something that has worked in the past, maybe? Wonderful. How's your child? Nice. Right around when our daughter was 2, I learned that about her as well. Me and her are the same way. If she's getting kind of overwhelmed and stuff, if I just get her outside, like fresh air is like a silver bullet for her. And she's still that way to this day. Fresh air, right? It's just, there's a softness that just drops. And now she can have a conversation, we can work together and stuff. But that was something, that's a fantastic one, right? We're looking for patterns, right? And some things have a shelf life. Maybe that works for a couple of years and then it stops working, or for a couple of months and then it stops working. That's okay too, absolutely. Yeah? Yeah. Yeah, redirection, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, here's something shiny. Go get it, right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How's your child? Wonderful. Yeah. 3, 4, it's a perfect age. Redirection's fantastic. It can be a blessing and a curse having a short attention span, right? But for a parent, being able to just redirect them to something else, huge, absolutely, definitely, right? Excellent. And so here's a list of different things you can do reactively, right? Encourage space, preview consequences, right? Reminding them of incentives, planned ignoring, right? Planned ignoring is a funny one, right? Especially if the function of the behavior is attention. You don't want to give attention to the behaviors you don't want to see. And so maybe it's something like, I'm going to walk away. I'm going to walk away. I'm not going to respond right now, right? It's very different than walk away, get out of here, or I'm mad at you, and you storm off and slam the door, right? But planned ignoring, right? You've done it with intention. I'm sorry, bud. I can understand what you're saying. You seem very upset. I'm going to walk away. I'll come check in with you in a minute. You come back in a minute. Oh, it looks like you're screaming, you're throwing yourself down. Do you want a hug? No, you don't want a hug. Okay, all right. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to come back in another minute, right? Planned ignoring, yeah. Yeah, and that's very common, yeah. It's frustrating when a tool that has worked in the past stops working, right? Doesn't mean it's the wrong intervention, right? For example, especially those of you who have 2-year-olds, right? Up until 2, screaming, crying is how you get your needs met. I want milk, I'm sleepy, I scream and cry. Totally normal. That's what they should be doing as a 1-year-old, right? Once you see that they have new skills, that becomes the new bar, right? You've shown me that you're able to use your words and express yourself using words. That's what I'm going to expect from you right now. I'm not going to reward the screaming and tantrum like I did when you were little because you have the words now. So that's what I'm going to expect. That doesn't feel good. That's uncomfortable, right? And so what are they going to do? Scream and tantrum and say, are you sure? Because this has worked for half my life, right? Are you sure? Screaming worked. No? Okay. All right. Screaming doesn't work. I guess I'll talk, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's uncomfortable when you start expecting more of your child. But the same thing I used to tell teachers at Brightstar. Once a child shows you that they're able to do something, that becomes the new bar. I can't tell you how many times me and Jacqueline, we'd be in parent-teacher conferences. We'd sit down, right? And the parent would come in and we'd talk about their behaviors. We'd talk about what's going well. We'd talk about their strengths and they're meeting their developmental milestones. And we'd ask the parent, what are some goals that you have? And they'd say, man, I really hope that they can start feeding themselves by age 4. They've been feeding themselves for 2 years. They've been with us, right? Once they show that they could do something, that's the bar, right? That's the standard. Oh, you can feed yourself? I'm never feeding you again, ever, because I know that you know how. Whether it's language, whether it's autonomy, whether it's behavior, whether it's impulse control, whatever that is, once they show you they're capable of it, that becomes the new standard, right? And you get all the caregivers involved and on the same page. Your child's strengths are your tools for positive behavior management. Right? So if your child's in a stage where they love playing with blocks and it's blocks, 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 well, then those blocks now become an incentive, right? Show me that you can clean up, and then we can play with the blocks. If you don't show me that you can clean up, then you don't get to play with the blocks. Whatever their interests are, whatever their strengths are, you can use those to your benefit. Routine is the collection of your patterns and habits. It's the consistent cycle of events that together become your family norms. This was my routine as a child. We would have oatmeal. My mom, peaches and cream oatmeal every morning. When I came home from school, we'd watch Carmen Sandiego, and every Friday we went to Blockbuster, right? You can tell what generation I'm a part of, right? That was my routine. That was what the norms of our family. It's just what we did. It's what we did. It's what we did. It's what we did. Having these touchstones throughout your child's day is going to foster that security that I'm talking about, that predictability. There's unhealthy routines, healthy routines, and then there's your routine. It's going to be something in the middle, right? An unhealthy routine, some of those characteristics, right? It's very reactionary. You're just it's all over the place. It's unpredictable. Individualistic. It's about you. It's I want to be comfortable. I'm upset. I have to do this. I'm running this. It's about you. It's rigid. It might be too rigid to the point where it's uncompromising, right? If I know that they didn't have a nap, maybe I need to adjust what the afternoon looks like. Maybe I need to have a little bit of grace. Maybe it's okay if we go through the drive-thru, right? Because, they didn't get their nap and I can't cook and watch them have a meltdown at the same time. That's okay, right? Having a survival mindset where you're just trying to stay ahead of things, and it's exhausting. A healthy routine is intentional, it's collaborative, you're working with your partner so you're on the same page, right? You have the same expectations. It's flexible, right? You can adapt based on your child's needs, right? It's seasonally mindset, right? Again, it's so fleeting these years. Who your child is today is so different than who they're going to be 6 months from now or 6 years from now. And so we need to remember that just because a tool worked over the summer doesn't mean it's going to work now. And we can't get upset about that. They grow and they change. And then it's life-giving, right? It's rewarding. It feels good. It doesn't mean it was an easy day. But at the end of the day, you feel good. You feel fulfilled. You feel like at least you were aligned with your child. Even if it was a meltdown, you were aligned with your child. And it didn't go to that oppositional place, right? Emotional benefits of a predictable routine: it provides a sense of security, builds confidence in their adults, promotes positive autonomy, models healthy life skills, and primes a child's mind for learning. That's why the morning routine is so important, right? If we're able to have a morning routine that is smooth, or as smooth as possible, right? If they're able to enter into class with that mindset of security and kind of a calm and kind of a flow through their morning, right? It perfectly primes their mind for the learning that they're going to do throughout their day at school. And then play. Right? You're surrounded by toys. Why are you not entertained, right? It's so frustrating. You think they have all the options. Why are you not happy right now? If I was surrounded by all my toys, I'd be happy. What's your deal? Can't you see we spent all this money, right? That doesn't mean anything to them, unfortunately, right? We want it to, but it doesn't work that way, right? Again, back to that short attention span. I remember how many times have we taken them to the beach or, taken them to, go to the jump house or someplace fun, and then they have a meltdown afterwards, and it's like, aren't you grateful? We just did that awesome thing, right? They don't think in those terms, that transactional terms. They don't think that way, right? And it's unfair for us to impose that on them. Who is the most powerful of all the Incredibles? Yes. Oh, you guys, the first group to get it on the first try, it's Jack Jack, absolutely. But why is it Jack Jack, right? It's because he has all the powers. And it's the job of the young child to explore those superpowers, right? It is their job. And for this section, I really want to highlight some norms, because so often, especially in our culture, everyone wants to keep their dirty laundry kind of hidden, right? It's like, oh God, I know it's just my kid. I know it's just my kid. I'm the only one who has a kid who says so when you give out options, right? I'm the only one. I know it. I'm not going to say anything, right? Because I know that you guys, your kids don't do that. It's just my kid, right? No, right? It's their job to experiment with power. It's their job to experiment with language. It's their job to try out no, right? It's important for them to have a fair and safe and loving place where they can experiment with that power, right? So we're going to be grounded. We're going to be consistent. 7 play urges, right? And I'm going to go through these a little bit quick because of time, and I want to be respectful to you guys and give some time for options, for questions. Destroying, right? Again, that destroying, right? Smashing, ooh, that feels good, right? Smash. That's totally normal. That's what they should be doing at this age, right? And if we don't give them safe and appropriate things to smash, it's going to be your coffee table. It's going to be your phone. It's going to be this. It's going to be that, right? I almost said CDs. It's important that they're at least able to have opportunities to destroy things. It's a part of what they're learning. They're learning cause and effect, right? They hear that crashing sound, right? It's perfectly normal. Gathering, right? These are the shoplifters in our family, right? The kids you empty their pockets and you find a screw and a raisin and some rocks, right? Right? I think some of us are in that stage too, right? Gathering, that's perfectly normal, right? And if we don't give them safe and appropriate things to gather, it's going to be that when the alarm goes off and you're leaving Target and you're like, oh, empty your pockets, buddy, right? They're gathering. It's okay. They're learning about object permanence. When I put it in my pocket, it's gone forever. I take it out, it's back. I have power. They're experimenting with things. Giving and taking. One of the little trick I give to parents and I give to teachers too. You guys ever go to Spartan Final and you buy a big thick roll of raffle tickets? Put that in your child's play and see what happens, right? They're going to give tickets to everyone in the house, and it's going to be for some show that's never going to happen, right? And then they're going to come back and collect all the tickets back, right? It's so much power in just being able to do that, and the ripping and the giving and taking, right? And you're going to hold it. Do you still have your ticket? Do you still have your ticket? Yes, I still have my ticket, buddy. Okay, all right. It's going to be a big show right before bedtime, right? And throw that in their play, see what happens, right? Giving and taking. Trajectory, throwing, right? If we don't give them toys to throw, one of my aspects of my consulting is I go to schools and I kind of assess their play spaces. Beautiful school over in Woodside. They spent millions of dollars on making it gorgeous, fantastic campus, high quality teachers, but every time they'd go on the yard, they're having these issues. Kids were throwing sand, throwing rocks. Well, of course, it's because there's no balls in the yard, right? Small change, the behaviors totally changed. The vibe of the whole yard totally shifted, right? A small thing like just having safe and appropriate things to throw changes the whole game. Now it's not your phone or, the dog's toy or whatever the other thing is. Hiding, right? And again, these are all stages that the kids are all going to go through at some point, some small, some long. I went through a long hiding phase from my mom in the Ross clothing rack, right? Hiding behind the clothes, right? Hiding, it's a part of it, right? Right? Building forts, who remembers that, right? Totally age appropriate. And if we don't give them safe and appropriate ways to build forts and bury themselves in the blankets and pillows, it's going to be in the clothing rack at Ross, right? It just is. We want to give them opportunities to do that where it's okay. Again, I show you all these things so then you know that this is not your child being bad. This is not your child being bad. This is them doing what they're supposed to do. Transporting, right? Pulling, pushing, right? Again, they're figuring out their big muscles. Wow, I'm strong now. I'm not fragile. I'm not small. I can push and pull, right? And so sometimes, yeah, it might be sibling. It might be pushing and pulling on their sibling, right? and that's okay. They're experimenting. Let's give them something appropriate, something safe that they can use. Right? And then connecting. These kids are often overlooked because they're easy. You give them some blocks, they stack them, and they're just content, right? When they're in this stage of these different play behaviors, when they're in the building stage, it's a nice little window of relief compared to some of the other behaviors, right? My son, praise God, had a long Lego stage, right? I don't think he ever left it, really, but he had a nice long Lego stage. Take a breath when you're in that stage, right? So again, these are things that they should be doing. These are things that you expect them to do. We want to give them appropriate ways to do it. And so when you're hypothesizing what some of these behaviors are, also ask yourself, are they having options and ways that they can do these things, right? Most of them do because they go to school, right? You're so blessed to go to a school like Brightstar where they're very intentional to write curriculum specifically to address safe and appropriate ways to do these things. Doesn't hurt to have them at home too. Again, everybody eats. I want to remind you of this because it's so important. As we're interpreting behavior, as we're trying to figure out what our children are saying with their behaviors, I challenge you, just dig one layer under the surface, right? Are they trying to escape a situation? Is it just something they're trying to escape it, they want to get away from it, right? Maybe the bath is too hot, maybe the bath is too cold, they don't know how to say it. Maybe it's because they know that bath means they're gonna have to leave you and go to bed, and you're gonna have to leave them and, go to your work and wash the dishes and make lunch and all that other stuff. And so it's an avoidance maybe of that. They want to escape just the ending of the day because they love you so much, and they know that bath is the first step in that process, right? They want to escape that. They want attention, right? They're just fighting for you. And I'm guilty of it too, right? I get an email, I pull it out my phone, and they know that if they do this behavior, I put my phone down, right? It's conditioning. There's something wrong with that attention. It's how they go about getting it. Something tangible, right? Nothing wrong with wanting that thing, and then something sensory. I remember when I was working with social services, essentially my role was to work with families that were at the very last chance to stay a family, right? Either because the parents did something they weren't supposed to, abuse, neglect, things like that, or the child had some challenges, behavior, mental health challenges, cognitive challenges that were making it really, really unsustainable for the family. So my role was to step in the family and create a plan that was going to help them be able to have positive ways to get those needs addressed. And so I'd have these meetings where it'd be the parents, the grandparents, the coach, the priest, whoever else, everyone who's invested in this kid, and I'd have to create a plan and try to implement this plan to help them be able to stay a family. It was really hard work. I love that work. And the very first family I was working with, it was this kid, Jason. And he was 8 years old, and I always remember that we'd go into the house, and as soon as I stepped in the house, it was just Swiss cheese, right? Just holes everywhere, just punching, just flailing, punching, kicking holes, throwing things. And this house was bare, right? They had all the toys kind of locked away, and they'd take out one thing at a time because if they took it out, he would throw it, and he'd melt down, and he'd punch. And we'd have these meetings where, we'd get about 15 minutes into it, and he'd start swinging and stuff, and he'd end up punching the walls, and he'd punch the lights, and punch the wall, and punch the chair, punch mom, and it was just, and we could only get about 15 minutes into the meeting. And I remember we reported to social services as a third party, and the social worker was like, Justin, I don't know if this is gonna work. I don't know, it doesn't seem like he can handle being here. We may have to find foster care or some higher level care, maybe somebody in home, but this is just not sustainable. Like you gotta have meetings to create a plan to get this to work. And so we had been going on for a couple of months now, and I was kind of running out of my chance, and the social worker came to the meeting, which they didn't normally do, and I was 25 at the time, and we're sitting at the meeting, and I locked in, and I'm running the meeting and trying to talk about strengths like I do, and talking about challenges and behaviors and all these things, and how your last week go, and trying to get some strength from the family to create this plan. And right at 15 minutes, right, Jason starts swinging, punching. He punches this, punches that, punches the dog. He's flailing, right? He punches the light switch, lights go out, and I lock in, and I just keep doing this meeting. I just keep trying to talk, and parents are trying to manage him, but we're talking. We get about 20 minutes in, 25 minutes, and I see he starts calming down. His shoulders drop. The tantrum gets a little quieter, right? He starts getting a little kind of under mom's arm, right? And we go through the meeting, and we're able to get it done in the dark. Cut to a few weeks later, he gets some assessment. We realize that he has sensory needs. He's on the autistic spectrum, and the lights were too bright. And this kid is just looking for the light switch. He knows if I swing hard enough, I'll hit the switch, lights go down, and he can breathe, right? Right? He had unmet sensory needs that none of us were able to see unless we looked for patterns. We had our senses up to look beneath the surface, try to ask ourselves questions like, what was he trying to communicate? He wasn't bad for bad's sake, right? He had an unmet need that was perfectly okay, perfectly normal, that we had to accommodate, we had to adjust to. Now, I know it's not that extreme for your kids, but it's the exact same thing. They're trying to tell you something. Let's try to hear what it is. And when all else fails, speak with love, right? Connect with your child heart to heart on their level, on their level. This is an act of alignment. I'm with you. I see that you're mad. I see that you're sad. I see that you're angry. But here I'm with you. I'm not against you, right? You can validate the feelings and validate the want without validating the behavior, right? Yeah, no, you don't get to bite to say that you want something. You don't get to hit to say that you want something. But I see that you really want it. I'm with you in you wanting that. That's okay to want that thing. This isn't how we do it. Optimism, be the giver of hope. The way that we speak about our kids to each other, right? Your kids are sponges and they're hearing all of it. And so if the stories you're telling about your children, when they're even just within an earshot, are negative, oh, today he did this, right? And you get those parents that they'll complain to you about their kid, and so you feel this temptation to want to complain back, right? It's an act of alignment. I get that, right? Nobody wants to hear the person who says their kid is perfect, right? But your kids are listening to it, right? And so we need to be the giver of hope. We need to remember that this is all seasonal. And these problems today are not going to be the problems of tomorrow. So let's be present. Let's hear what their challenges are, and let's meet them where they're at. Voice, right? Manage your volume and your speed. I talk way fast. I know this. I'm trying to work on it, right? And for a little 3-year-old, 5-year-old ears, right? It's a lot. It's a lot of stimulation, right? And so I have to slow down. I have to change my tone. We have to adjust to meet our kids where they're at, right? And then empathy. Affirm that all feelings are valid. The angry feelings, the jealous feelings, the feelings of sadness and mourning, right? Those are all valid feelings. The feelings of joy and they just don't want to stop playing, they don't want to leave the park, whatever that is, those are valid feelings, right? But the way that we show matters, and the way that we respond matters. It's how we empathize with our children. And so if the one thing that you take away from this is having a posture of alignment with our child and not in opposition with our child, then I've earned my money today, right? We want you guys to be able to at least have a posture towards your behaviors, children's behaviors of alignment. Those strengths that you guys listed in the very beginning, that is your child as well, right? Even when they're at their worst, that is the core of your child. That is who they are, right? Yeah. So I'm available to you guys if you have any questions. Some of you guys might have some time constraints where you have to leave, but I'm here for you. I'm a firm believer that the way that we speak about our children, the way we talk to them, becomes their internal monologue. If you ask your child good questions, they'll ask themselves good questions. If you speak truth and light and positivity and praise, they're going to internalize that, and that's how they're going to speak to themselves inside their head, right? And so I want to give you guys tools. I'm there for you. Like I said, of all the folks I work with parents is my favorite thing in the world. And so I'm available to you to ask any questions. I don't know what kind of time we have, but if you guys have any questions, please feel free to spit them out, because we're all in this season together. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a limit, or do I just say at some point, like, no, just gotta stick with it and just cool.
Yeah. Well, there is a certain point where oftentimes for a lot of children, especially, first 5, right, that sensory reboot, sometimes it's just a question of getting a wet paper towel and just wiping the tears and snot out of their face, right? Sometimes that's all they need, just a nice, clean, literally physical, clean slate, right? And, and some kids like touch, right? Some kids, it's like, let's just hold each other, because this sucks for both of us, right? Let's just hold each other, and then let's give it another shot, right? A phrase that we use in our house, right, is that we're a family of second chances, right? And so we always give a second chance. Buddy, this is rough. Like, it's rough for you, it's rough for me too. How about we have a second chance? How about we start over, right? Now, your children may have different levels of maturity, and they may be able to handle different levels of that conversation, but it'll look different for every child. But there's nothing wrong with, like that scrapping it point, there's nothing wrong with just getting to a final point where you're just like, can we either hold each other or have space? Right? And then we'll have a reset, right? Like that is the ace in your back pocket that you can always play, right? Yeah. Next.
My daughter is almost 3, and
Yeah. Yeah. Sure, sure. I'll say two things. First thing is that, again, the things you give attention to are the things you say more. So oftentimes, like the shh, right? It's triggering, right? That's a trigger, right? But if we react to that, and you react to the shh, right? Now you're not talking about whatever you're talking about before, right? Now you're on to another thing. And there's this cycle that you can get into where it's like, now I'm talking about the shush. Now I'm talking about the walking away. Now I'm talking about the tone. And you're getting more escalated, and they're pushing buttons, and you've gotten so far from whatever the initial thing was, right? And so what I challenge you to do is, first, try not to respond to the shush. You don't give it any power, it doesn't exist, right? Or you talk about it later on. When you're removed from the situation, you're putting them in bed and they're very vulnerable and they're tired and you're doing your goodbyes. You could say, yeah, that really hurt my feelings when you shushed me. If you want to tell me something, just say, excuse me, mommy, excuse me. Or, whatever, raise your hand, whatever the thing is. If you want to say something, if you want to whatever, that's how you do it, right? And it's not going to work right away, but you change what's normal. Right? That's the first thing. The second thing I would say is, again, you want to pivot back to whatever the genesis was, whatever the original thing was, and you want to keep your focus there. Hard as it is, we want to stay on that thing because they're doing something for a reason. And if you think about it through the lens of communication, what your child might be communicating, possibly, is that you've said a lot. Right? And so maybe, I know I'm a lecturer, right? Literally, but also as a parent. And so sometimes I just need to shut up. Right? Maybe I've just talked too much. Oftentimes we think that if we say the right combination of words, our child's going to go, oh, okay, right? Oftentimes there is no combination of words, right? There's no perfect phraseology that we can get together in that escalated moment. Later on, maybe, when they're calm and you're in bed or cuddling or something like that after books and praying. But right there in the moment when everyone's emotions are high, hearing those words right over their head, right? And so shush, super rude as it is, we may actually just need to quiet down a little bit, and that's okay too, right? Maybe it's just a lot to process, right? And I say that as a lecturer. Yeah. Somebody else. Come on, I see some smiles over there. You guys got some? What are some of the behaviors that you're dealing with? Some of the challenges that you guys are facing? Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. It's tough, right? And especially, I think, too, I don't want to go too far on a tangent, but there is a generational piece to it as well, too, right? If you were raised in homes where there's just certain phrases and certain tones you just do not have with your parents, right? You kind of feel a sense of entitlement that I'm owed that as well, too, right? Or I'm not having the authority I should have, because they feel so free to be able to do X, Y, Z. I saw this video recently where it was how do you know that you've broken generational curses? And it's this dad, and this is a real video, and the kids are melting down and stuff, and they're playing, and the house is wrecked and all this stuff, and he takes off his belt, right? And the kids start laughing and they start running around, right? Some of us grew up in homes where taking off your belt meant something, right? But you've broken that curse because your kids don't fear you, and that's a good thing, right? We want them to love us, right? And we want to love them, and that's what we want to communicate, right? We're given this really powerful biblical responsibility to raise these kids to be balanced, stable members of society, Christ followers who embody that characteristics, right? And so, yeah, we don't want them to respond when we take off our belt, right? That's not a bad thing, right? And so think about how you react to things through that lens, right? Yeah. Let's get time for one more. One more. Yes. Sure. Yeah. I do, like I said, I do a lot of coaching with parents. And honestly, the majority of coaching that I do with parents is really just aligning parents, That's 99% of what I do. I work with parents, and I don't work with kids. I mean, not in this capacity. I work with parents, and they're like, don't you want to come to my house and teach my kid how to be a kid? Like, no, I don't. I've done that work, right? And what I've learned is that the second I get pulled from this house of cards, all the cards collapse, right? And so I may give you a tool, and you try using it, and if it doesn't work, doesn't mean it just means it's not a tool that works for your family and for your child and for you and for that dynamic, right? But if I go impose this tool that does work, now the house of cards is sustainable on me, right? I say all that to say that the majority of work that I do is aligning parents in styles, right? In styles. And again, in that spirit of consistency, it's going to be important that, you know what, if one parent, if mom is the one who is kind of the rule, just kind of the authoritarian and is kind of establishing these guardrails and they're the bad cop essentially, right? Maybe that means that mom gets to break some of the rules sometimes. And you have to give yourself permission that, you know what, guys, we're going to go get ice cream before dinner, right? Whoa, mom said what, right? That's okay, right? And at the same time, right, dad needs to learn the feeling of being the bad guy, right? It's against his nature. It doesn't feel good. Nobody wants that feeling. But maybe it's the time when dad has to maybe turn up his voice just a little bit, right? Or be a little bit more established, right? There's no gray here. Do this or you're losing that, right? Do this, you're choosing not to? I'm gonna be the one to take away the toy and put it in my closet, right? Now, normally that may have been mom's role, but dad being the one to do that, what are you doing? You're creating a sense of normalcy, right? A sense of aligned values, aligned contribution, aligned vision, aligned messaging, right? And so that's 99% of what I do with families, is helping them to have a safe place to kind of flush out that alignment, right? Again, I'm gonna stick around. I wanna be respectful of your time, so I'll be around if you wanna come up to me, you wanna check in with me. You can scan the QR code if you ever wanna check in. Again, I love coaching parents, so send me an email and I'm happy to connect with you. Yes?
One thing I know about our families, again, being preschool, the majority are first-time parents,
Yeah.
and they're hard on themselves.
Yeah.
Books that they're good.
Yes. Yeah. And
So hard.
yes.
Giving them that hope and
Yes.
confidence. Yes, it's a challenge. I'm glad that you mentioned it.
Yeah.
This is hard work, but you're okay. It's okay to make mistakes.
Let me share. You guys have time for a quick story? I promise it'll be fast. Yeah? Okay. So I remember our son was 4 at the time. He was 4. And he had this book that he loves. You know, all of our kids, we have these books that they want to read every single day, right? In the last 6 weeks or something, and then they'll put it down, never see it again. My son had a Star Wars book that he kind of loved, and we'd kind of go through it, and it was like, the Millennium Falcon is gray, and, Luke's lightsaber is green, and we kind of go through, the colors or whatever, and I'd read it to him, and I'd read it to him, and read it to him, 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 right? And there was this one night where we'd stayed up too late. I think we were probably at his aunt's house, and we had been there too late, and we're just, those days where like, I want to be a good parent, I want to do the full routine. I want to do the routine, I want to follow the routine, right? And so you're trying to force yourself through this routine that probably should not have happened, or probably just gone straight to bed. But, it's like, I'm going to be a good parent, I'm going to follow the routine, establish these norms. And so we're going through the routine. And our son, I was tired. I mean, I'll be honest, I was tired too. And I'm just like, what color is it was Yoda. Yoda's green. I was like, what color is Yoda, bud? And he's like blue. And I was like, no, he's not blue. Like what color? He's red. No, he's not red. Like, come on, like, I'm just trying to get through this book, right? A million times I've read this to you. Like, let's just get through this thing, right? Cut to very shortly later, I realized that my son's colorblind. And, right? Like, right? And I'm sitting there, and I'm getting upset with him, and I'm like, just tell me what color this thing is so we can get through this book so I can get you to bed, because I kept you out too late, right? And here I am, beating myself up. It's our first kid, and I'm a wreck, and I'm crying, and my wife's like trying to console me. I'm like, I've ruined him. He's never gonna trust me. I'm not a safe person, right? And I'm just like melting down. He's never going to be vulnerable with me or trust me. He's 4, guys, by the way. He's 4 at the time, right? They are resilient, right? They are resilient. They will give you more grace than you deserve. They adore you. You're the coolest person that you know. In high school, that table that you couldn't sit at because that's where all the cool kids were, that's you now. They adore you. They see everything that you do. They want to be like you. They want to be on you. always, right? Give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. They're going to give you that grace. I think if COVID taught us one thing is that our kids are tougher than we think. They're resilient. They are adaptable. And their love for you is unconditional. Unconditional. And so remember that. It's not just on you. There is a community of people, whether it's the folks at Brightstar, folks at your church, folks in your life who love your child, who want to pour that grace and that love and model Christ's love to them in all that they do, right? You are not an island. You're not on your own. And that your kids are tough. They love you and they're resilient. I encourage you with that. You can't do worse than I did in that moment. Not my best spot, right? And we have a fantastic relationship, and you will too. The fact that you're here, the fact that you are here shows that you are parents of intentionality. And at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about, is being intentional, right? Even if you're wrong, if you're intentional, you're being thoughtful, you're not prioritizing yourself and your emotions before your child's, you're way ahead of the ball game, okay? Give yourself that grace. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to hang out. So if you have any questions, whatever, I'm available to you. Absolutely. All right. Of course, don't distract me.
Thank you so much.